Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call Vamps. While some may think that the first vampire on screen was Nosferatu, according to film researcher Gary Rhodes, the vampire was first seen in Louis Foulère. In it, a bat flies onto the roof of a building and transforms into a woman. Today we take a bite out of female-led vampire films with a fun block of 80s and 90s horror gems. On a mission to study Halley's Comet, a team of astronauts encounter an enormous structure hidden deep within the comet's tail. Inside the spacecraft, they find three naked, gorgeous humans suspended in what look like glass coffins. The crew decides to take them home. After all, what's the harm in taking back some souvenirs? Dan O'Bannon co-writes a screenplay in some familiar territory about encountering intelligent parasitic alien life. Toby Hooper gets to direct without Spielberg over his shoulder. And Steve Railsback, Patrick Stewart, and Matilda May star in 1985's Lifeforce. After promising a fraternity that they'd deliver a stripper, three nerds go to the big city looking for someone to hire. However, some gaunt ghouls, thirsty strippers, and the big city itself tries to chew them up and spit them out. Will they be able to survive the night? And how much will be left of them? Chris Makepeace, Robert Russler, Geddy Watanabe, and Grace Jones star in Vamp from 1986. An undercover cop embedded in the New York mafia scene is set on bringing the organization down, but a vigilante is beating him to it. Why is she doing it? Why is she draining the blood and removing the heads of her victims? And how did she develop a taste for Italian? Robert Loggia, Anthony LaPaglia, Anne Perriod, and a killer cast star in 1992's Innocent Blood. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
Hey, call the police. These people, they're all vampires.
Eat shit and bark at the moon. That doesn't make them bad people.
Adam, no glasses.
Yeah. I got LASIK.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. No, it's excellent. I love it.
Is it the halo thing at night and all that?
Like to protect my eyes?
Well, no, because apparently, like when people see like car headlights at night after having that, like sometimes there's this like ring around it, like it's Die Hard 2 or something.
Or just any J.J. Abrams movie.
Yeah.
Just like lens flares, constant lens flares.
Yeah.
No, I haven't noticed that.
Maybe you get the real version and not the knockoff surgery.
Right, the LASIK with Z.
LASIK.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so happy I don't wear glasses. I get to wear cool sunglasses. I feel cool. That's really what it was. I just wanted to feel cool.
Yeah, you're like Long Duck Dong and Vamp. I'm cool now.
Do I have
friends, right?
now?
For a couple weeks?
Yeah,
for a week?
For a week. Yeah.
For a week?
You guys are be my friend for 1 week. He's like telling other people like it's not the saddest thing ever.
I know.
Listen, anytime you wanna catch a movie, you just give me a buzz, all right? Just give me a buzz.
What's this, huh?
Tell me again how the girl overpowered you.
She was the most overwhelmingly feminine presence I've ever encountered. I was drawn to her on a level that...
Was it sexual?
Yes, overwhelmingly so. And horrible.
What the hell are you talking about?
The club, everyone here, man, they're vampires.
Welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm Brian Foster, and with me as always is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
Well, Brian, if you just come with me, it'll be much less terrifying.
I always anticipate the line. It's always a surprise to me. For the people at home that are listening, I have no idea what Jeremy is usually going to say, and it's always a nice little surprise.
There you go.
Today, we'll be discussing some vampire films again, which I'm very excited about. We did discuss female-led vampires through A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. However, this
That whole title out. That was good.
It's a tough title, all right?
Yeah.
But today we're going to be discussing three more female-led vampire films, and we have a very special guest returning with us today. Jeremy, would you please do the introduction?
Yeah, we've got one of our most returning guests, and someone who, got the jacket. Actually, it's probably the most returning, and programming guest ever, and always a delight. Adam Feuerberg.
Hey guys, thank you very much. I feel so lucky to be a part of this. This is great. How many times have I been on the show now? 4 times? Is it
4, I think.
4. So
know.
one more and I get the watch. 5, right? It's 5. Right, exactly.
The cheap gold watch.
I have my punch card, I want a sandwich.
Here's your Molex.
At least a sandwich. I just want some cold cuts. I'm hungry.
So, Adam, you came up with this block. We're talking 1985's Lifeforce, Vamp from 1986, and Innocent Blood from 1992. This is a really cool block because they all really go together well, in my opinion.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They work well. They
do.
have similar beats.
Yeah.
Like I'm so excited to talk about the little details because it's funny how this kind of just came together. It isn't like these movies have been floating around for me forever and I've always wanted to talk about them in succession. I learned about them within the last couple of years.
Cool.
I watched them all this year for the first time.
Really?
And really the two of them, the last two were for this specific show. And it just kind of worked out. We're like, we got something good. I'm excited.
I was lucky enough to go see Bram Stoker's Dracula last night. So that was
really?
In some ways, there's female vampires in that. Not really led.
Oh, sure.
But definitely. So I got the the extra credit here, so you guys maybe owe me as well.
Honorable mention.
Well, we'll have you tie that one in somehow at the end.
I'll do some sort of social. Yeah.
It looks like we found the occupants of the ship. They look like bats. Giant bats.
So let's get into this block, Adam.
Yeah, so the first movie today is Lifeforce. It's a British and American co-production from 1985. It's directed by Tobe Hooper, as everyone knows, directed Poltergeist, and of course, the Texas Chainsaw
As
Massacre.
everyone knows, Tobe
Poltergeist?
Hooper directed Poltergeist and not Steven Spielberg, yes?
Well, yeah, I mean,
The DGA said he directed it, okay?
he got paid. The man got paid.
He
right,
got his
exactly.
$25 million budget for this because of the success of Poltergeist, so we'll say he directed that for this. for the
Right?
sake of this.
Like, come on. Like, let's give the man some credit. He made business move simply by being a part of it.
Yeah, he definitely did.
And I think that's more important than anything.
Ride
People got
the wave
jobs.
correctly, right?
Right.
Yeah, might as well.
And listen, if Poltergeist doesn't happen, Lifeforce doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And I do have to say, of the 3 films that we watched in this block, this one is my favorite.
Interesting.
And so I'm it is, yeah. It's because it hits the notes.
I kind of thought it would be just because of Patrick Stewart.
Well, Patrick Stewart, like the science fiction element of it, like the world coming to an end kind of element of it. Like there's a lot going on in this movie, and as fantastic as it can be, it does one of those things that a lot of films do nowadays. I think maybe in the 80s is when it started. It was like, if you want people to believe some wacky ass shit's going on, have British people say it. And it sounds like, okay, you're right. Like, shit's going down.
I'd like to piggyback on that statement, though. I think what's great about this is that, it's a very Dan O'Bannon feeling script where it's
100%.
Space workers, like you feel like these are
Right.
people that are doing actual jobs that you could kind of relate to, and then something spectacular happens or they encounter something
and like,
out there.
instead of being drawn because of the profit, like from Alien, like bring this home to study and we can, extract whatever we can from it. This is like some kind of a psychic trance that the living creatures put on the people, but they still take the life back. There's a lot of beats to Alien. You're right. Dan O'Bannon has kind of written this story before, maybe.
He has. Well, what's crazy about that is like that
it works.
In the script for Alien, the sort of vampire chamber that we see in Lifeforce is basically how the egg chamber is described in the Dan O'Bannon Alien script.
With the 3 bodies, that chamber?
Yeah, like just the way that the chamber is configured as that sort of reverse pyramid.
Right.
Like and that very bizarre look to it, and how they have to kind of turn upside down.
Right.
Weightless to get there.
I think that sucked up about $21 million of their $25 million budget. They said that opening scene just destroyed their whole schedule.
I love the Halley's Comet angle of it, because wasn't Halley's Comet coming around like the 80s or 90s or something?
Yeah.
So they kind of like put that story out there.
What a great lineup, right? Like just to be able to like time that out properly, and then all of a sudden Halley's Comet's in the sky, and you're like, oh shit.
Oh god, the vampires are coming.
That was like one of the best parts of the movie was like that kind of that moment we're sitting there with that, space bureaucrat or whatever, and he's like, just something's going on the TV, and like, he's hanging out in his office. They're talking about Halley's Comet coming and all these other things, and they were like, they had this really like portentous sort of newscast where it's like, in Latin, disaster means evil star, and that's what they thought of as Halley's Comet and all this stuff.
It's like bad things are going to happen. We're telling you they're all going to happen. Shit's going down.
No, but it's funny because we were talking about the opening a second ago, like that scene where the ship is sort of recovered. Like what happened to the crew? Where's everybody? The blasted out ship. Like it seems like that's where you wanted to start, even though there's a lot of cool stuff in that opening, in the actual opening that's in the movie.
Tell it later on when he's telling the story, right?
Like you just kind of want to start with this mystery and like what the hell's going on here, and like and I felt like right when we got there to the thing where it says cut to 30 days later, I was like, that's where the movie starts.
Yeah, right. Is that when they found Carlson in the pod?
No, not even that. It was like they found the spaceship.
Those are two
floating.
different occurrences. Yeah, they found him like a few days later after they brought them in. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they could have started even with that. Like, just all of a sudden, this guy, the escape pod drops. They have no idea because they lost communication. They're like, okay, can you tell us what happened? Now we're back.
Right, and then start there and tell that story up to this point. Right.
It'd be more of a Big Trouble in Little China opening, Green flame.
Half a city block explodes in a ball of green flame. Green flame.
Yeah, or maybe the Thing opening, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, why are these Norwegians shooting a dog?
Hey, Sweden!
Halloween 3, right? Those great horror openings we talk about. That like, what the hell is happening
just like,
right now?
What's
this
going
guy
on?
From? What is this?
Right.
Why does this dog need to be killed? It looked like a pretty nice dog. I really like a good story where they have kind of explanations of legends and myths. In this one, it was Halley's Comet. The vampires were hiding behind that, and they would come around every however many years, 80-something years or whatever.
Our viewers may be interested to know that comets were once considered to be harbingers of evil, and that one of the earliest words for comet was disaster, which in Latin means evil star.
And then vampires are real, and it's these creatures,
Yeah,
exactly.
But I guess that was added to the script by Toby Hooper, and Dan O'Bannon didn't like it. I wrote my notes as I was watching this, and I'm like, I really love when they do stuff like that, and I really like that it was a practical element like Halley's Comet. And then I read that the actual writer hated that and didn't want it. I guess I'm not that smart, but I still thought it was cool.
Listen, it works. It works. Sometimes people are wrong. Sometimes Dan O'Bannon's wrong. It's okay.
That's right.
It's okay.
The person who understands their work the least is the one who created it.
Interesting. Wow, that was very deep. That's why we have Jeremy here, because he just likes to
he's able to poetically wax upon the importance of our words.
Poetic zinger.
Does this movie for you guys go from very slow, almost 2001 like burn to like bananas like immediately?
That's why I think it's like this like science fiction epic. There's an epic piece to this that's like just so like wacky, like eventually we get to see this beautiful overlook shot of London on fire. And I remember like when you see like the trailer of this, there's an implication that this is like a zombie movie, I think a little bit.
They look like
and
zombies.
There are scenes to that allude to like that's what's going down. People are just running the streets and like eating each other and like zapping each other. One thing that I think these three films have in common is the first like vampire attack. They all have a first attack scene where you learn like how monstrous these creatures possibly can be.
Yeah, that's good. I agree.
Right, yeah. This one is the lady's like zapping that dude dry.
Use my body.
And then eventually we see him come back to life by sapping somebody else. And then you see the cycle of how it goes down. And you mentioned how the opening scenes, the budget. I think these effects are wild with the lasers or like the beams or the light. And then, of course, like the way that those bodies decompose. That person deserves an Academy Award.
I agree. I think the makeup's awesome. I think that the animatronic stuff is great, especially the people that have had their life force sucked out already, and but they're still operating, their eyes move and everything. But
exactly.
I thought that it was strong, especially the gore, but I did feel a little more zombie by the end than I did vampire,
Right.
more like, more of a structure. It was just like pandemonium by the end of this movie.
It went kind of off the rails, but I loved it. It was so ridiculous because especially you have to have a scene where like they're clearing the side and the guy's like, I'm going back in, get out of my way. He steals a car and like drives off. Like, like this is it. Like the world, at least this story's ending because the characters are done for.
I think you'll like this tidbit I found, Adam, that this was Patrick Stewart's first on-screen kiss was with Steve Railsback.
Love it.
The man that played Ed Gein. And that's another throwback to one of our previous episodes. The Ed Gein trilogy. Steve Railsback played Ed Gein in the like TV made movie or something. Yeah.
You know what's funny?
That's great.
I didn't know Steve Railsback from anything other than the Stuntman. And he's great in that. I mean, Peter O'Toole's in that.
He played Charles Manson. Mm-hmm. This is what he does, man. He just plays some whacked out roles.
Yeah. But for some reason I always thought he was like, I don't know what, like a football star who turned into an actor or something.
Because he looks like it.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of has that like
he looks
athlete
like an
look.
athlete or like a guy that worked with his hands a lot.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like it would hurt to shake his hand. It'd be like sharp.
No, but I love that idea. Like you were talking about, like that there's kind of I guess in all these movies there's a different take on the vampire here, and you were talking about how in this one it felt like we got into some zombie mode. You definitely get some of that in Innocent Blood, which we'll get to.
Right.
But, overall, like just sort of every single one of these movies, like the way that the vampire thing works, it is very different than whatever the audience is expecting with, two little, bites on the neck.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
These ones.
I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Innocent Blood. It was probably Anthony LaPalagua, like goes and like checks his neck in the mirror in the morning. He's like, okay, nothing's there. Yeah. But like, little did he know in that movie, if he had been bit, it would have had a whole like a cartoon like a chomp,
he would have been
bite of the apple. Exactly.
Right.
Innocent Blood really did go for the vamp approach, right? More of their animalistic kind of. They're almost like wolves or dogs, or like they're just. But I want to say Vamp's makeup effects when her face, Katrina, when Grace Jones pulls her head back and she has like rat teeth almost. Like it's really hard to describe. But those are Greg Canham just coming through with great 80s effects there. That was awesome.
It was we really got lucky with these three films and their special effects.
I agree.
They were all different. They all did different things. I love the eye effects in Innocent Blood. That's one thing that separated that from the other films. And then, this movie had also eye effects. Lifeforce did, but it was way more subtle. It was very much like how the pupils kind of turned. You could see it faintly. But obviously in Innocent Blood, people's eyes would change color and light up. It was really... Yeah. They all had different approaches to it. But I did love how they all had the first beat of the first kill setting up, and the tension's up, and then something goes down.
It gives a lot of rules too, right? In Lifeforce, it was how they take the life from the other bodies and what you'd expect to see from that, and then how they would come back to life too. And in Innocent Blood, it was that she had to cut off the head of the person that she bit, or they would come back, and she didn't want more vampires running around. She wanted to kind of keep that level playing field to herself. In Vamp, they had to make the bodies disappear, right? They had to only find one person that's a kind of a derelict, and that's why they got separated, and that's how they kind of wrote that. And it was Robert Russler was apart from the group, so they all had that rule that was established in that first kill too. So it kind of wrapped it all up. It's nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a specific way that these animals or monsters acted, and they defined it really well quickly.
Hey, what are you, some kind of a freak?
I think this is funny that Tobe Hooper directed Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself music video. And after that music video, he had such a good time working with Billy that he offered him a role as one of the vampires in this movie. But instead, it went to Mick Jagger's son, I think.
Right.
That's pretty interesting, right? Let's keep it in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame family here. And also, one more thing.
Close enough.
This is one of those movies that's one of the Canon productions, Canon films. You see it pop up on
And this was their
screen.
biggest one. It was the most. This was their first foray into like big special effects movies.
Big bomb, yeah.
It bombed hard.
Big bomb. I mean,
it bombed
their list
hard.
of bombs
they
is
went
pretty
for
cool.
it.
Masters of the Universe. That one sucked really bad. Over the Top is probably okay.
Hawks.
Superman 4 is absolute dog shit.
That's right. They had something to do with Superman 4.
They had some real winners in their library.
No, but what I also love about this movie, it's like the structure of the movie, where the sort of third act just goes insane, where they're just destroying all of London or whatever. It's exactly the sort of superhero movie ending that is like copy and pasted in every single DC and Marvel movie. But they did it 30, 40 years earlier in this movie
with Star Wars effects.
It was more believable too, because like it wasn't going to get solved.
Oh, you mean from a narrative standpoint?
From a narrative standpoint, these guys everyone's gonna die. And like you don't get that story from a superhero movie.
Didn't they have the thing where it's like you kill the one main bad guy and all the whole space beam and the ship goes down?
I think she just goes back, right? She just returns. But yeah, I think you're right. That was the main
like,
boss.
that's why he had to go
Bowser,
find her in the crypt and all that.
Yeah, but he
Once
stabbed
you kill
them
Bowser,
both.
all the Koopas die.
He killed them. He killed the other guy too.
Well, they both floated up the tractor beam there, right?
Right.
The Lifeforce tractor beam.
Well, they had to get rid of him because he had a little bit of her in him, so it had to happen that way.
Psychically connected.
But I think as sort of wild and crazy as this movie gets, like definitely the most realistic part for me was that there was absolutely no quarantine procedure. They just came home and said, "Fuck it."
Right, because that's what's going to happen. No one's going to listen. No one's going to listen. No one's going to change their
Which is
behavior.
also very Alien, right? Because there was the quarantine got broken on that too.
Yeah.
They totally ignored it.
At least in Alien, there was kind of a fight about it. Like, hey, wait a second, what are you doing, you idiots?
She's cute. She's naked. Bring her on board.
That's my favorite story. One of the actors, one of the male actors, actually said that they had shot enough scenes where you could see the full frontal male nudity as well, and that's where, because Tobe Hooper was all on board with that, and the censor stopped it from happening. They were cool with the female. They were cool with the female
More
frontal
dicks.
nudity, but not the male.
Is there a more penis version of this film that we can get? Maybe from
I don't know if it
Arrow?
made it to film.
The director's penis. Yeah.
I heard also that there was in this $25 million budget there was a actual cocaine line item in there, and that's why Tobe Hooper's
in this film.
Yeah, Tobe Hooper's directing style was not really meshing well with like Dan O'Bannon and with other people on set. Yeah.
So they felt like they had to get together one night, have a good time, and kind of hammer out their differences. That's what it was for. The cocaine saved the movie.
That one night lasted 6 days.
Yeah. Exactly.
Where's he now?
He's in solitary confinement. He's been naughty.
Do you guys still have more things on Lifeforce?
Just that the special effects guy's name was John Dykstra, who had won an Academy Award before. I'm forgetting
Star
which
Wars,
movie.
right?
Maybe.
Or he also did Ghostbusters, I believe.
And then James Horner of Star Trek fame was asked to do the screenplay, and it ended up going to Harry Mancini.
You mean the score?
You mean the score?
Yeah.
The score, yes. What did I say?
Screenplay.
Screenplay. Sorry, screenplay. I meant score.
That's why this movie got so fucked up. They put the screenplay in the hands of a composer. Is this a note?
I can do this.
What's this play like deal? Music with a big crescendo, So it works.
No, but man, think about the opening theme of this. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, it
so
was so
powerful.
epic.
I love
so awesome.
Which it doesn't really come back to that though, right? Like I feel like that's the only time you really get that. And I was like, wow, this
First
is
and only?
intense and driving, but I'm like, it didn't really last throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, they hired different musicians to compose in America. I don't know if that made it for the cut that we actually get to see now, but they hired Michael Kamen and James Guthrie to write occasional musical cues for the actual film. So maybe that's why it was different than the score.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't know if that's the version that we see now, because you know how things change over time.
Yeah, of course.
We see like the European cut's not considered the actual full one. I don't actually know the nature of that for this movie.
The one I watched was the international cut or the British cut or something.
Which I think has all the score in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original
Maybe,
Spore,
maybe
right.
it was a different one, yeah.
Yeah, I watched whatever one is available on Amazon, I think. I think that's the original theatrical cut.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The way to see the movie.
Yeah, so it may have been because supposedly like some of the beginning was cut out of the theatrical or the
score,
American release.
A lot of the intro.
Oh, okay.
Which I think adds to the level of like space opera epic that this is supposed to be.
Right, exactly. It kind of sets the tone for, it's a little corny, it's a little epic, but it's definitely a lot of fun, and that's sort of like what the music tells you coming out of that.
It is a Chex Mix bag of
It's
all,
a
I
lot
swear
going on.
It is a variety
Which
pack.
is another theme that goes to all these films.
Yeah, that's true. That's also true.
Yeah.
I mean, the mix of horror, the mix of comedy, the mix of camp. Yeah, I think it's all strong in these.
Exactly.
It'll be much less terrifying if you just come to me.
I'll do just that.
So what's kind of crazy is that even like the other two movies in this, this one sets itself apart even further, which is like sort of the way that the vampires drain you and drain your blood, and apparently all of your precious bodily fluids and your life force and everything else comes out of there.
Her life force.
And it's like this this giant laser beam being sort of electrically sucked through your body and into the vampire. And yet, on the helicopter, during that insane scene where all the blood starts pouring out of that out of Patrick Stewart's face, and then she forms out of that blood, we still get the sort of like vampire imagery that way.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool scene. That maybe whether or not you really like the effects today or whatever, that's fine. But together, it really comes together.
I don't know. The effects are pretty awesome.
Fucking
on that.
awesome.
It's
Yeah,
really
I love
gross.
it.
Yeah,
gooey as shit, man.
There's something about effects from that era that can be really scary. Like there's just something about that. CG just doesn't quite hit that note. There was something real about that. There was something tangible about what we saw.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And
that's how she spent her
out.
18th birthday. That actress was just covered in blood for shooting the composite scene for that. Yeah. Happy birthday.
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Exactly. I've always wanted to be Carrie. But it's funny too because like you're talking about how there's a mixture of sort of vampires and zombies and like and that I guess gets to like whatever The Last Man on Earth, where it's like it actually was that mixture, and that gets sort of confused in later iterations of zombies, but that they essentially were the way that vampires worked, and some of these movies touch on that as well.
But they straight up say it in Vamp. AJ calls himself a zombie. He doesn't call himself a vampire at first. Yeah.
I'm a fucking zombie now!
Right. That's a good call. Yeah, exactly. Good segue too.
I wanted to talk about how remember we were talking about Night of the Creeps, and Adam M had mentioned that he had said he never saw this movie, Night of the Creeps, but he remembers all those moments, right? They're stuck in his head somehow, and he remembers seeing certain things. Yeah. This is how I felt with Vamp. So I thought that this is the first time I've seen this movie, and it is probably the first time I've seen it all the way through start to finish. However, there are moments in this movie that I remember and are stuck in my head, and when I saw him, I'm like, oh shit, I remember that. One of them was when Robert Russler gets killed, that first kill when they establish Katrina as just this vicious vampire, which I think was
great,
brilliant, scary, beautiful
so
scene.
Good. It builds and builds. You know what's going to happen.
Cinematography is amazing. It's long. It's great. But the end of it is so brutal, and the way that they show her, it's not just the two Pierces, right, anymore.
No.
Now they're eating
she's
your
ripping
flesh.
his neck out.
But the other one is Jack Klumpus eating the cockroaches. And I remember that like it was, and I was like, what the hell is this as a kid? And I'm like, this is creepy as shit. This guy just casually eating cockroaches, But those were the two scenes that kind of just stuck in my head. But man, this movie's got a mix of genres as well. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of Night of the Creeps, like how much did the opening of this remind you of that? Or was it vice versa? I mean, I don't know which one came out first, but the whole conceit of the way the movie starts is that
fraternity stuff.
Yeah, they're trying to get into a frat or whatever.
Yeah.
And like they get
Like
sucked
an
into a world of
after-hours-
horror.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like after hours.
Just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting. I know that people. I think you've brought up, Brian, before, that this is similar to From Dusk Till Dawn, where it starts out as one movie, then ends up becoming a
Feels
vampire
like a precursor
movie,
to that,
when
yeah.
you're in like a den of vampires.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of those movies, right? Exactly. There's a lot of films in the '80s that start out as like people just trying to have a good time, and then things go way south.
But here's the difficulty between this and Night of the Creeps. You've got this where you need to go hire a stripper, which I don't think is that difficult to do if you've got the money, or go find a dead body and put it on someone's lawn. It's like I'd probably have a harder time finding a dead body.
Right. I tell you one thing. I think I would just hire the stripper. Like,
if I had a choice, sure.
Right. There's no yellow pages. Like, this is the '80s. Like,
Exactly.
come on. This is when they were really pushed.
Yeah. No, but absolutely, this movie inspired Quentin Tarantino, the writer of From Dusk Till Dawn. I mean, like, and you think about even the sort of like the sort of vampire face makeup.
Yeah.
Is the same in
Oh, you're
in
right.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
And the eyebrows.
And then at the very end, when they were like running around trying to find different weapons, or whatever, they go into the pawn shop and kind of have the same montage of them, like, picking out different things to kill vampires with. It was kind of like like Bruce Willis trying to figure out how to kill Zed or whatever. You finally have money to spend
at the store in the game to like upgrade all your weapons.
That's such an epic scene.
Right?
But it was also really good in this one. I thought it was cool, and they set up that the guy's an archer right at the beginning with just. He cuts an apple in half. That's how he does it in a room, and doesn't even fear about killing his roommate or anything.
Right.
But they set that up, and there's a payoff there, and I think that's what's good.
There's one thing that I think this movie does that all three do well. They're all well paced. There's not really a boring part. You can argue about the quality of the acting or the lines or whatever, but you can't really like complain that like there's a boring part.
Vamp
in
does
any of
lose
these
a
films.
little bit of steam between 2 and 3, like Act 2 and 3. It kind of.
I suppose so, but I think it picks up in that like
the
tension
end picks up
really,
a lot. Yeah, the end picks up great. It has a great finish, and it's one of those. We killed the final boss, but there's also the sub boss that's in love with the final boss that comes back to make one more kill. That big gangster looking protector of Katrina, whatever he was. He was just in love with her, I guess. But there were like two like really cool, last ditch efforts by the enemy to kill the protagonist. I like that.
You both must die.
Exactly, and that another way that this movie kind of changes the story that surprises you is that you think AJ's the main character.
Interesting.
And then it turns out, AJ is like the main guy pushing this whole story. Like, you don't even know until you know that he goes back. He wants to see Katrina, and the kill happens. Okay, he wasn't the main guy, but they set it up that he is.
Yeah.
The whole time, and Keith is just like his buddy.
He's Janet Leigh in this.
Right.
We thought he was going to be the star.
Yeah,
exactly.
From Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 fame, Robert Rustler.
Mm-hmm. And also, wasn't he in Weird Science? Right? Wasn't he like one of the bullies? In Weird Science?
He was. Yeah,
with Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey's buddy. Yeah,
yeah.
Hill. The guys that laugh.
Rumor has it there's a big white sale going on at Town World.
I'm not impressed, no.
So, did you guys know that Amaretto is actually Michelle Pfeiffer's sister, Dee Dee Pfeiffer? I don't know if you guys knew that. Yeah, the love interest in this film.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know that until I was, I think, watching a Joe Blow YouTube video when I was researching.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. This movie's just so good. It's good at what it does. You know what I mean? Like, it is just like this great, wonderful 80s camp. I know, like, you've mentioned this to me before, where like someone always wears a Halloween costume, but you don't know what it's from. Mm-hmm. The Katrina dance, I've seen that Halloween costume before multiple times.
Yeah.
And like the face paint and stuff and the
that
wig.
looked really uncomfortable, but it was like super amazing to look at.
I've seen it. I've seen that costume before at like a Halloween party. I know I have. And I'm like, what is that from? That's absolutely wild.
Like, that is the worst Fifth Element I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
She does look like
it does look similar.
Yeah,
it does look similar.
Corbin Dallas, Lilu, whatever. Multiplex.
Multipass.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Multipass.
And this is
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Yeah.
Multipass.
Leela, multipass. She knows it's a multipass. Leela Dallas, my wife.
Well, you were talking about the look of this film. Everything looks very neon. Especially
Everything's
the lighting.
crazy neon. It's like an Argento
All of
movie.
the sewers have that purple-green mix.
Yeah.
I guess this is Elliot Davis, who shot a bunch of Soderbergh films at this time.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so real
he did,
super stylized film, but this one's
Out of
gorgeous.
Sight or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's wild is like it kind of reminds me a little of Creepshow. How it was like, okay, you'd switch onto these very stylistic lighting. But what's interesting is, okay, so during the daytime, the guys pile in the car, they drive out from the college town or whatever into the city, and then they get in a near-miss car accident, and the car spins around like 400 times, and it's like, whoa, they're really like milking this moment. And you're like, okay, is this supposed to be kind of like the entering Oz?
Yes.
You know, like moment in time where it's like, well, now they're no longer on Earth where they came from, and they're in this other dimension. And, you know, so immediately when they go to that Five and Dime diner to wait for the Sunset Club to open up, and they get, harassed by all these, like...
The near dark
Are
people.
they vampires?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
It's like very pale, like, but then they get eaten by vampires later on. They're like, what kind of gang is this? And like, it's a little confusing. But, you know...
It's just how things are there.
Yeah, and it turns out like
just what this world is like.
It
if
turns
you
out
spin
like
enough in your car, you're going to be attacked by weird pale
with bad
people.
teeth.
Well, and the easiest way to defeat those pale people is by grab them by the nuts really hard.
Yeah,
and,
just hold them there.
They go down.
Yeah, just hold them. You can have conversations with people around the room as long as you're holding on to the nuts. Yeah,
exactly. That's the stop button right there. That's the emergency.
No
kill
one wants
switch.
to mess with a man with someone else's nuts in his hand.
That's true.
Everyone knows
Don't
that.
touch him. He's got his nuts.
Don't
in his
touch
hand.
him. He's got someone else's balls in his hand right now.
No. What I love about it is like, okay,
He's got one more hand. Careful.
Yeah. You know, as after the car spinning, and as soon as the sun goes down, all of a sudden every single point that we see lit up is either sort of that hot green or the hot purple or whatever, and you know it's just that's what the lighting scheme is like everywhere in the sewer or you know out on
everywhere,
out in the alleys, whatever. And you know it gives you that feeling of like, oh, we're in another dimension or whatever. But what's interesting is they don't come out of that dimension at the end.
Right.
And I
have
thought
to get back in their
they were
car
going to
and
make
spin
yeah, exactly. I thought they were going to make a meal of like having to get back in, like, this is
How many
my
times
place.
was
Oh,
it?
no.
And they do
Yeah.
too many or too few, and they end up in a different dimension.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
These are werewolves now. Yeah. Oh shit.
Well, or they do it wrong, and then you get that last scare to hit the credits on, you know, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like, did they go to a different world, or is it just did they end up getting transported to a different block? You know,
Yeah.
like did they just get like zapped somewhere else?
The wrong side of the train tracks. The one with monsters, you know?
Because they just did the Hollywood ending, right? It was just walking away from camera after getting out of the sewer, right? That was kind of the
Don't you forget about me. Yeah.
Freeze frame that no one can see on the podcast.
The vampire.
I love visual gags on the podcast.
So two other quick things on Vamp while we're still here. What I love is there was that line that had an interesting sort of unintentional maybe connection to Lifeforce, which is, you know, toward the end they're trying to get out of the strip club or whatever. They're like, let's go home, and they're like, oh no, home's 1,000,000 miles away from here. Home's another planet. Is that the planet where the vampires come from? The Halley's Comet?
Could be. You know, I mean, again, like the when you see the real characters, like what the real monsters look like in Lifeforce, it looks like Katrina when she goes off. You know,
that's right. Yeah.
So here's a question for you to go back to Lifeforce. The bats that are found in the main structure at the beginning, they're all fossilized or frozen, whatever. They're dead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But were those the people that were taken the last time Halley's Comet went through, or who is that supposed to be? Because the three humanoids they look like humanoids, right? They're not bats. But then we see one of their
didn't they say something like how
end.
they tailored the look of all these people to what humans would want to look at?
Our bodies are unimportant. As you and your men have approached in your ship, we change them. for you.
That's right. So they all are those.
And
bats.
I thought those were dead. Like whatever, something happened to the ship where like those cases were broken,
Defective.
and that's why they floated out.
They saved some money on those cases.
Right? Yeah, they did. They really cheaped out. You know.
Fuck! Even in the future, nothing works!
Well, while we're still talking about Lifeforce, one thing that I really loved, you kind of reminded me like of that, is like that, that there was this theme that was explored for a little while, and I thought was really interesting. I was really hoping they would spend more time on it. But anyway, like Steve Railsback talks about how like he's like he was so magnetically drawn to her, not just because of like whatever how she looked, but also just the hypnotism he had. And he was like, I cannot let it go. It was like he was describing addiction, more or less, and long time ago, when Dan O'Bannon was my film professor, I remember he would talk about addiction a lot, and like that was like one of the themes that kind of ran through his work, I guess. And it really pinged in my brain. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that conversation. But it definitely made its way into Lifeforce.
I couldn't help myself. I've never experienced such. I was in love on a level you've never known, Kane.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
That's
Absolutely. The guy couldn't shake it. He sacrificed everything.
Yeah.
She was pretty good looking, though. I have to admit.
Worth
it.
Worth it.
Worth it.
Worth it. I would bring about the end of humanity for her.
What's so good about humanity?
I like that.
Right, yeah. Now, if there's anything
If there was something that we could do for you.
I already know. Be my friends. Take me with you.
We went through this whole thing talking about Vamp, and we didn't even mention that Long Duck Dong is in it, and that was the best character. Long Duck Duncan, I called him, because I think his name was Duncan.
Yeah, right.
his buddy with the car, and then he ended up being a vampire at the end. I love
nice.
I love how everyone got their moment with the makeup in this movie.
Exactly.
Right.
I was just gonna say that because they leave him for so long by himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he wasn't even part of the movie for like the last third, and you're just like, where the hell did this guy go? And then they're like, oh, let's get him in the car, and he looks fine. And then all of a sudden he's in the back of the car.
Because that's also another part where it's like almost he was like zombified a little bit before he started turning into a vampire.
Yeah,
that happens again, where there's a little bit of like, which one is it? Are both the same thing?
Yeah.
And I think what was fascinating about that, I think that this movie could exist in the same world as Near Dark, where it's vampires operating in modern day society. Kind of under the radar. They're still out there in public, but
let's go to Vegas. Let's go to Vegas.
The nighttime, right? Like it's just like that's when they operate. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna do a strip club, or we're gonna own a casino, or something that works.
Right. Draw people in. Exactly.
24-hour fitness. It's only open overnight. But I like that about that. But it was interesting to see, or to try to pick out, and if you rewatch this movie, who out of the group was a vampire, because Dee Dee Pfeiffer wasn't. Amaretto. Right. But you see a bunch of
and the chick who led Keith into the place wasn't, and it's like
she was just one of their servants or
was it their
familiars.
Yeah, exactly. Renfield or something.
Right. Not everybody was in yet, but the idea was eventually she would be.
Yeah.
That's why he kept like checking to make sure. Like remember when he like opens the sewer on her face, like, oh, what the hell? She could have fallen down.
Yeah.
She could have fallen down and died, but he did it anyway.
Right. Oh my God.
So we talked about the makeup effects, right? That's Greg Canham. He's the guy that won the Academy Award for Vice for doing the makeup on Christian Bale. So this guy's been around for a long time.
Do I look real bad? It's just like the movies. You can't see yourself.
I mean, I'd say all three of these movies, if there's one, highlight that you could pull out of any one of these, is the effects and how pushed forward they are, especially for the time that these movies came out. Innocent Blood's got great arterial spray, and I do really love the
and Robert Loggia at the end there.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
awesome.
That look.
Best cast ever for a vampire movie by
best
far.
Of all the movies, this has by far the best cast.
There's no question. Yeah,
100%.
Are you talking about like the casting of Tom Savini and Sam Raimi?
and Linnea Quigley has a brief moment as well. She's in the hospital scene.
Right.
With Don Rickles.
Yeah. And Steve Johnson's also in that scene. I think they were married at this time, those two. Yeah. But yeah, she pops up. It's great. Angela Bassett, Luis Guzman.
Angela Bassett's nominated for an Academy Award the following year for What's Love Got to Do with It. And she had like this little bit part in this movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, even Chaz Palminteri isn't in it for very long. He's a great actor, but he's the first.
Great
he's
actor.
the establishing kill.
Exactly. He's the one where like, what does the monster do in this movie? And he's the victim. And then 2 years later, he's in Bullets Over Broadway.
There's a lot of good food scenes in this movie, like when they're eating, looks like takeout from really good Italian restaurants, and I always like took note of that when I'd watch this movie growing up. But one of them was like Loggia's like pushing this like garlic pasta.
Muscles and garlic. Robert Loggia is particularly Robert Loggia in this movie.
Yeah.
Whoa, Robert Loggia.
Billy, your mother's right. New Minute Maid orange tangerine tastes great. And it's got as much calcium as milk.
If you say so, Mr. Loggia.
Yeah.
This is great.
Enjoy your breakfast.
New Minute Maid orange tangerine with calcium.
Yeah.
Remember the Family Guy joke where he spells his name? That's based on this movie.
Never heard that. Oh, really?
It's for Robert Loggia.
O as in, oh my God, it's Robert Loggia. B as in, by God, that's Robert Loggia. E as in, everybody loves Robert Loggia.
It's a dumb joke, but it's just like, apparently he's very full of himself, and like this movie, he really jacks himself up to a 10, you know?
He is at 11, for sure in this one.
Yeah,
man. He is.
Yeah.
Muscles and garlic for Monopoly, for Christ's sake.
But I just like when he's trying to push the muscles on the vampire. It's like it's because of garlic that's keeping her away, or that's deterring her.
Yeah.
But it's like if anyone pushed food on me like that, I'd be pretty pissed off and
it's true. During the moment that scene was happening, I was like, man, what the hell's her problem here? Like, oh yeah, the garlic.
Oh, the garlic.
Right. Yeah.
Wait, I guess these guys don't like seafood.
Yeah, exactly.
She's kosher. She's kosher. She doesn't eat pork or seafood.
The only kosher vampire.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that this movie has a good amount of humor. I don't think there's some things in it that bother me. There's this massive score that pops up out of nowhere all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's very jazzy and fun.
It's mixed way
this movie, all of them want to be multiple things. I think all these films really went for that purposefully. Yeah. This one does it the most. Like it's a crime film. It's an undercover cop movie. It's a horror film. It's a thriller. It's a romance. It's got it's comedy. Like it's got a lot of all. It's weird that of all three films, this is the one that does it. But it has the most going on, and sometimes they all don't. Funny enough, the word I use is jazz to describe the weird score.
Was this the first time you've seen any of these, Jeremy?
Yep. I haven't seen any of them. Yeah, exactly. And Vamp and Lifeforce turned those stylistic corners a little easier. So sometimes in this one, it was like, oh, let's pause the entire movie to have a Skinamax scene in the middle of it.
Right.
Exactly.
Like it really sticks out. But also, it's very 90s. This movie follows a very 90s formula
the
where
ending
like
too,
it's similar to 80s films, except it wants to try to accomplish more.
Well, I feel like her being nude in most of the movie in this is a throwback to Lifeforce, or at least a nod to that, right?
Yeah.
The female-led nude vampire throughout the
I feel like if
movie.
you're gonna have a female vampire, she's gonna get naked. Like that seems to be the rule in a lot of vampire films.
Grace Jones was wearing wires though, so she had full clothing on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Steve Johnson did the makeup effects for this. I love the makeup and the gore in this, and I wanted to call out the Don Rickles scene when he fries in bed.
That was the catalyst to us doing this series of films. Because remember, I texted you. I saw this film. I was like, oh my God, Don Rickles played like a monster. And I sent that to you, and you're like, oh my God, you told me all about this movie. You told me Blood.
That's right,
I was like, I have to watch this. And you're like, yeah, it is a female vampire lead. I'm like, wait a minute. I've recently seen a couple films with that. We should put this together and do this. So me sending you that clip ended up being the catalyst for this whole thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, I like how stuff like that starts.
It really does.
But I like this movie a lot. I mean, I remember liking it more as a kid, but watching it now, I could see how it doesn't really mesh all of the genres together.
But it's really fun to watch, though.
Yeah, it's fun. I think all of these are repeaters. I think that these are ones that you don't mind if they're just showing them at someone's house. I'd be like, sure,
right,
I'll watch this again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So after Jack Klompus, had to give up his strip club, did Robert Loggia take it over? Because the strip club they went to in this one,
it's the same thing.
It's a very, very similar layout. It's this tiny little place with one little dance floor.
Dude, I mean, what if Innocent Blood is like a pseudo sequel, or like one of those proto sequels to Vamp or something?
It could be. Yeah, she survived the house. She was one of the other dancers. And she ended up like knowing what to do and trying to be like the ethical vampire. That's how she thought of herself. This French lady,
the Bada Bing.
Yes, it's very Dexter. She has her code of only killing killing bad guys.
A lot of Dexter in that, right? And the rules were established pretty quick with Chaz Palminteri when she just rips his head off. Like, oh.
Never play with the food.
Never play with my food.
Oh man, that was one of those things where it's like, I think they needed to have someone else ADR all her lines because it was really difficult to hear what she was saying sometimes.
It's like the French lady that it was supposed to be Captain Janeway on Voyager. You ever hear about her?
You got me on that one.
What's her name was not Kate Mulgrew was not the first choice. It was this French lady whose name's escaping me. She couldn't say engage. It would always be like enlarge. Like it would just sound like very like slur, like she was slurring it.
Yeah,
and it didn't work.
Well, because they put the sort of witness protection program demon voice on her, and then on top of that, her accent, like you don't know what the hell she's saying.
Stay away from me or kill you!
It's so funny that you bring that up because, like I said, I watched Dracula last night, and even since I've seen this movie originally, I can't understand 80% of the things that Gary Oldman says in it. And we were sitting in the back of he's got this like really tough accent. We were sitting in the back of the theater, and I was talking to Chrissy on the way home after we saw it, and she's like, I didn't know if that was just me or if the sound was bad. I'm like, no, I know what he's saying most of the time in that movie.
But she didn't want to say, Chrissy's such a kind person, she didn't say a word.
Exactly.
He's like, oh, this is great.
Me, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy saying? Can anyone understand this guy? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, this movie's a lot of fun.
Well, in any movie where Robert Loggia uses a rump roast as a pillow is okay with me.
He's got a rump roast for a pillow, I'm telling you.
I feel like those scenes reminded me of when we were talking about Predator 2 in the meat locker,
Yes.
walking around. It's like the same meat locker scene there.
Exactly. God, it's so good.
Mr. Michelli, do you want I should call somebody?
This is good. Leave me alone. Shut the door.
Yeah, but you're in the freezer. Right?
Okay, hit the fucking lights.
Thank you very much for joining again, Adam. Could you let everyone know what you have coming up in your life?
Oh man, my nephew was born a few days ago, so that's been like our thing right now.
Congratulations,
uncle. Thank you. Yeah, his name is Benjamin Ethan Cap, and he's just a wonderful bundle of joy. The bris is in a couple of days. After that, we've been like a little mini lockdown. We've been like avoiding like big indoor events and stuff. So I'm excited for that.
You love last night's movie. It was packed house. Yeah,
exactly. It's been perfect for it. But yeah, so that's wrapping up here pretty soon. So I'll be going back out in the world. Nothing necessarily planned. Although if anyone listening to this podcast does comedy in the LA area, there's always Corbin Bola open mic on Thursday nights. Come sign up, do a set. I'll be back this Thursday helping out hosting. So come on out.
Perfect.
That's like a hop, skip, and a jump from here, right? From our area.
It is. Yeah, you're even closer than I am. You're probably like 5 minutes away.
So I have zero excuse not to go to your shows. I get it. Got it.
Exactly.
All right, next time on the show, we'll be doing Horror Anthology 301, my favorite episode that we have. It's become an annual thing for us now. This is going to be the third time we're talking about horror anthology films with Tales of Terror from 1962, Creepshow 2 from 1987, and Tales from the Hood from 1995. Thanks for the ride, lady.
Yeah, it's always a fun time. I think this is one of our longer running gags here, is like having the horror anthology, block come back every year, and pretty excited about this one.
Me too, especially Tales from the Hood. I know I saw it when it originally came out, but it hasn't been since then. So
yeah,
that'll be fun.
Be good to revisit.
Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Ciao.
Look, I just...
No, you look. Now my stomach's all upset, thanks to you and your dead friend here. This is not a nice area, and I don't like coming to it. So before I lock you up, I want all three of you out of here. Go home.
I've been trying to do that for the past...
Now.